Our first animal we have is the bottlenose dolphin, found outside of New Zealand. Their migratory rates are low. They typically stay within the same range. They are darker in color with a lighter underside. They are a male dominant society, and conservation efforts are through two universities in New Zealand, with Massey University and University of Otago, and their population levels are unknown. So these efforts are to further develop an understanding of their life activities as well as their population levels and whether they are endangered or not, as well as furthering our knowledge of their impacts on the ecosystem. The next animal we have is the New Zealand sea lion, and they are endangered. These sea lions are very, very useful and a huge role in the ecosystem, as they do both travel inland and in the ocean. They do not migrate though, so all of their travel is very local. Excuse me. They are polygamous and they are male dominant, just like we saw in the bottlenose dolphins, with a very similar diet to the dolphins as well. However, these guys also will eat some plants and some greenery. They do disturb a lot of nutrients and carry and spread nutrients from land and sea. So these animals are very crucial and they are endangered, so they are very much protected. The humpback whale has a great migration rate. They travel between mating and feeding areas. Their tail patterns are kind of like the human thumbprint. They are individualized, so it's kind of a good way to identify each individual humpback whale. Only the males produce noise. They are gulp feeders, so they will typically eat krill and any water laying insects. Again, these guys are polygamous, and their conservation efforts are studied at the University of Auckland. Right now, they are of least concern because they are increasing in population. So again, the New Zealand sea lion would still be top ranking out of these first three. Next, we have the leopard seal. Their conservation efforts are being studied through the University of Otago. Again, they are of least concern and unknown. Therefore, these study efforts will help general knowledge about the leopard seal. They do migrate between the northern and southern oceans. Typically, migration to New Zealand occurs during the fall and winter times. Again, these guys are polygamous. So we have not had a monogamous relationship and between animals as of yet. They have extremely, extremely sharp teeth. The females are quite large compared to the males, and these sharp teeth really aid in a lot of protection, as they do have a snake-like appearance with not super large or strong foreflippers. Their foreflippers are strong for swimming, but not so much on land. Again, the species of the southern right whale is their IUNC rating is of least concern or unknown. So the conservation efforts through the University of Auckland will greatly aid in just general knowledge about these. They do have great migration, just like the humpback whale we saw a couple slides ago. They migrate between feeding and mating grounds. So again, like the humpback whale, and they are gulp feeders of krill, again, just like the humpback whale. These guys lack their dorsal fin, which makes easy identification, and their head is covered in callicite, and those are like the rough bumps that you see. Moving on to our seabird species instead of our marine mammals, we have our little penguin, and again, their IUNC is of least concern, and it is at least stabilized. These guys, a lot like the leopard seal and New Zealand sea lion, are critical to the ecosystem because they do transport nutrients back and forth to the water. So they are very small in stature. Now we finally have a species that is monogamous, so they find one partner for life. They do not migrate again, so we only have 2 animals thus far that do migrate. This island, or New Zealand, is very populated with a rich biodiversity, so all of these species are critical, as the lack of migration means that they all play a very large role continuously in the ecosystem. Next, we have our Royal Albatross. They are studied by the University of Otago and the Royal Albatross Center. They are vulnerable to stable, so they are of concern, but not the most concern. They have an incredibly large wingspan, which aids in the migration, which can be very vast. And like the humpback whale and the southern right whale, they migrate between feeding and mating grounds. These guys are monogamous, just like the little blue penguins. So these guys, again, are of great concern, as migrations do help show us a lot about how the environment is changing, how climate change is impacting their activities that go with migration, which is typically feeding and mating. And those are two critical life activities that these species carry out. Next, we have the sooty shearwater. They are near threatened and their species is decreasing. So these guys are highly up on the list to be protected. They consume shrimp, fish, and crustaceans. These guys do migrate, not as much as seen before, but again, between the feeding and breeding grounds. They are monogamous with a bright orange beak and a uniform of gray coloration and feathers with a black head. Next, we have the Antarctic tern. They are of least concern unknowns. The conservation efforts by Newcastle University will greatly aid in some general knowledge about this population of species in general. They have an extremely long neck and a large body. The bright colored head helps identify them. Both male and female care for the young post-birth, and they are monogamous. They do not migrate, so because their population is unknown, the studies around around their population numbers to be monitored will not need as much GPS tracking, more so satellite and overhead viewing. Next and last, we have the great crested gerbil. Their conservation efforts have been seen through the New Zealand Geographic, and their population is of least concern, and the exact number is unknown. They do have a long, slender beak, which aids in hunting, which is their primary diet of fish, crustaceans, and insects. Just like we've seen with the majority of the other birds, they are monogamous, and they have partial migratory. So they may choose to migrate, they may not, and every year it varies, and not every individual does migrate. So the studying of conservation and understanding why they may migrate or why not is very crucial. However, all of these animals play an important and critical role in the biodiversity and the ecosystem within New Zealand. And with so many not migrating, it is very crucial that we rely on the current population and increasing those populations and protecting them in order for them not to decrease, as they have no other place to go. That New Zealand is their home, and we are not to disturb their area and to limit the amount of human disturbances and anthropologic activities as possible. Thank you.